Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
We got a great show for you today. I'm so thrilled that we're able to connect with all of you. I want to just say, I know that these shows, that you're probably listening to these shows 3 months from now because we live in this digital world. And so once upon a time, and I have some old school pictures of us, Benny, where this is coming up on our 20th anniversary in 2023, at least for the Dr. Pat Show. It's our 19th for Benny and me, starting in 2023. And we started to pull together, what do they call them when you pull pictures together? Scrapbooks. We started to do a digital scrapbook and take a look at some of the pictures where we've been and where we are. And the reason I'm bringing it up is I remember once upon a time when, and Benny remembers this too, when in order for you to have a message like this, you literally had to be in a studio. Now, there was some people like on the network that I first started with that did a digital version of this, but it was by, okay, shall I say it? I can't even say it, but I'm going to say it. Okay, phone. You did it by phone. That's not even like a term anymore. But I looked back and I thought, wow, this Thanksgiving and this holiday season, no matter what's going on, can we have a movement around gratitude? And as a matter of fact, Jessica, who's also here today, created that. And then I thought about like the show today and Linda orchestrating this conversation with, with somebody that knows about transformation, somebody that knows, Jeanine Thompson, that knows about what it means, speaker, author, her knowledge and what she does crosses multiple disciplines. And I thought about today's show because I thought about the book she wrote. And I was talking with her before the show, Jessica and I were talking with her before the show, that there's never any mistake with the people that show up, especially on Monday, I'm finding the people that show up and the message they have and how dang appropriate it is. And so what I love about this is that I get to share all that with you. And then I know this other thing too. I know that if we're talking about something today, it's also on your hearts. And that's really what I love about it. When you take a look at who she is, 911 from your soul or 911 from your soul. However, if you're from New York, you say it differently. But this is what we're talking about. We're talking about this fantastic book, but it's more than a book because this is a woman, highly successful, former Fortune 50 executive. She and I have that in common. But here we are. How are we here? How did we get here? Why are we here? And what is it that we can understand about saying yes to something so much bigger than ourselves, but to do it fearlessly? Mm-hmm. See, that's what today's show's about. This is not just about talking with her about her fantastic book, about what she does in the world, but how do we help all of you step forward fearlessly today? Because this is what she has been doing. She has learned and studied and teaches and helps other people get their mojo on. And I am so excited to introduce her to all of you. Benny, we should have like the round of applause thing that you do, right?
Oh, yeah, we can have that for you. Sure, no problem. Here we go. Yeah, oh, yeah, here we go. There we go. Yeah. Well done. Well done.
I think you're going to need to get the jackhammer out for this show, too.
Show's done, everybody. Wrap it up. Let's go. Just kidding.
Wow. Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pat. It truly is an honor to be with you and your listeners.
Look, I know I've got a lot of questions. I always get questions from the people that schedule these interviews, but that's not the question I want to ask you. There's this interesting contrast. I met Dr. John DeMartini ages ago, and every show I play his words. And I play them because I entered this venue not knowing what I know today.
Mm-hmm.
I entered this venue in 2003, broken, scared, and just not knowing what to do. And here I am today. I didn't have any clue about this. But I want to ask you this question, because you wrote this book, and it's not just a book, but the book that you did write seems to be the pulse of what people need today. I want to know from you, what touched your heart? What challenges, what obstacles did you have to overcome to bring this type of book about the soul to today, to this very moment? What did you have to do?
That's such a great question. You know, Dr. Pat, I always think that we get clues in advance when our soul is ready for the next level of growth. And I did too, all along the way. But particularly, I was given a clue several years ago. I was on vacation in Mexico with a girlfriend, and I heard myself say out loud, I can't do this forever. And when the kids graduate, it'll be time to do something new. But I was shocked because I was in a Fortune 50 job. I loved my job. I loved my family. I loved my life. And it was as if something spoke through me. But probably like many of your listeners, we get these clues, we get these whispers, but it wasn't in line with my human plan. I was like, no, it's 4 years too early. And so I persisted, and the intelligence of life is always orchestrating on our behalf. And sure enough, 7 months later, I come back from China on a trip, get called into the CEO's office, and he said, we came up with a brilliant plan. We're going to offer a voluntary, generous buyout to almost all 4,000 employees. And I was stunned being the head of international HR. And I'm like, oh man, there's so many other ways we can get at cost savings. And I had no intention of taking the buyout. But throughout the 14 days, long story short, I did take it. And even though I ignored that whisper in Mexico, it never stopped. It never went away. I kept hearing it in the middle of the night. There's something more for you. And once we know something, we can't unknow it.
Can't unknow it.
No.
Can't unknow it.
I know, darn it. Sometimes we want to and we simply can't. So here I was, successful yet unfulfilled. And I went on a great search. I was trying to figure out, what is that something missing? I should just be grateful. My life is good. I should be grateful. Why can't I just be grateful? I'm a grateful person. And the net of it was, the search led me to places I used to make fun of. I was an evidence-based psychotherapist in my first part of my career, working with research, proven, demonstrated efficacy, treating anxiety disorders and the like. And here I was being bribed by a girlfriend with good wine to go to my first yoga class. And I thought, there's no way I can do this. I'm type A, I can't sit still. This busy brain of 70 thoughts never stops. I'm inflexible, awkward. I go to the class and, sneak peeks at my neighbor's mats because I had no clue what was going on. And the teacher came up to me afterwards and she said, someday you're going to teach this class.
Yeah.
And inside, another clue, right? I giggled. I thought, no way. But week after week, I came back. I became a registered yoga teacher, a Reiki master. And I became obsessed with mind, body, soul, and spirit, something I had never learned in graduate school. And ultimately, through that, I turned inward. And for the first time in my life, I understood that we were so much more than human beings. You know, we were spiritual beings, souls in a wonder suit of a body. And I knew my job was to be a matchmaker for the soul, to help individuals reconnect with parts of themselves they lost sight of.
Yeah.
But I got scared, like many of your listeners.
Totally.
I started playing small. I went back into corporate because it seemed safer, smarter, more logical. All the experts said, go the safe route. And it worked fine for a couple of years, but eventually I left, opened my own coaching business, did some soul work on the side, but I didn't live my truth out loud. And what happens when we start to live in half congruence is our life gets turned upside down in some way.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And that's what happened to me.
Oh, if I could just say, amen, girlfriend. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so keen. Look, we're going to continue your story. And the reason that I love this is because for almost 20 years, I have been on a journey to figure out what is happening, how I am where I am, how I even lived past age 17. Mm-hmm. And you and I come from, we could be two peas in a pod. HR executive, yes. Downsizing, except that I had to implement the downsizing and I refused to. But so many parallels because of the following reason. And I'm going to read this from your book and we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how perfect your message is for where we are now. But there's one thing in the book, and I think, Marcy, I think that this is something that was written. I just highlighted it, so I'm just gonna say. So there's a part in here that it says that your work is pivotal to an evolution, and we're going to talk about what that evolution is. But you have a soul solution, and this is a method that, when you think about it, it's for not just empowering people, but to master key spiritual principles in daily living. I got to say it again. Jessica, master key spiritual principles in daily living. And then it goes on to say, you know, in her dynamic exploration of earth view, soul view, and the harmonious ground between them, you will discover soul's presence in all aspects of your life, even when, especially when, it all seems to be falling apart. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what happens when you're at that place. Is it really falling apart? Or is it like deconstructing my grandma's amazing meatballs? Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in, turn us on. As usual, you know we're taking your questions, and this is a show you're going to want to ask those questions. 1-800-930-2819. When you are looking at a life's path, I don't even know what the language is because I'm still a student. I'm still learning. Look, I don't come from a place just like my guest today. I don't come from this place. I questioned everything. I didn't understand yoga or sitting and being. I didn't understand any of it until one day I was given an opportunity. Before we continue, please, how do we find out about you? How do we get a copy of the book? And anything else you'd like to share with us about how people can continue to engage with you?
Thank you. You can find me at JanineThompson.net. And you'll see there's lots of different ways to work with me. And I just love to hear from you. So pop me an email and I, would love to interact with you. You can also follow me on Instagram _Jeanine Thompson _. You can get the book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, your local bookstore if you want to support your local community.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeanine. I can't thank you enough. Look, I read something before the break and I want to get into it. There is no mistake that I'm talking to you today because all of us, it doesn't matter who you are listening. It doesn't matter if if you feel like you're down and out. You all have heard me tell stories about what it was like to be homeless, but there are moments in my life and moments that happen very unexpectedly where we start to feel like it's just coming apart.
Mm.
And it doesn't make sense because you have to ask yourself, maybe I'm going to ask you what you ask yourself, but you say, well, wait a minute, is this like a cosmic joke? Is this something that we're building for 20 years now only so it could crash and burn, or for some aspect of it to really be not so good? So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about this because you and I both come from backgrounds in psychology. Tell me, for you, from your perspective and from the book, what kind of tricks is our mind trying to play on us here? What is going on up there?
Yeah. Well, listen, I kind of distinguish between an earth view mind and a soul view mind.
Thank you.
So in our earth view mind, in those 70,000 thoughts a day, it comes from our conditioned self, what I call the false self of personality and ego, that's been really trained by society. We look for what's wrong. Everyone feels like they're not enough in some way. So if we're trying to solve a problem from the earth view, like I was when I was playing small, I thought I'm just going to go the safe path and do traditional coaching, which isn't the role the universe asked me to play, despite its enormous value, right? For many. Yeah. So that's our earth view. And that's where we get stuck. That's where we're told, don't get too big for your britches. But when you can learn how to soften and empty those busy brains and shift your awareness from the rat race to the core of the wisdom center. I always say one hand on your heart, one on your belly. We follow touch, Dr. Pat. And so the second we touch our body, we're already leaving our earth view mind and coming into the core of our wisdom center. And the tricks will stop when we start to commune with this inner genius. I call it soul. We can call it inner genius. The Greeks called it entelechy. It's the entelechy of an acorn seed to become an oak tree, a caterpillar to become a butterfly. So let's not get caught up on the label. Let's just know that in the core of your being, sacral to heart, belly to heart, you truly already know your answers. But most of us won't leave our busy brain because we're taught to fix it, avoid pain, do whatever you got to do, but get on it. And so we've lost touch with the part of you that already knows your answer. Right now, for every one of your listeners, internally, they know the answer, the plan, the path. And the art is, how do we live from that soul view versus this very conditioned earth view that always keeps us stuck?
Boy, I'll tell you, this is a message for the time we live in now. Thank you for using the word entelechy, because I first heard that word from my friend and colleague, Dr. Jean Houston. And, I wasn't kidding about the fact that I am talking to you today because I was really down and out, down and out in LA, but this was down and out in Seattle. And on paper, there was nothing on paper that would have said you feel like this. There wasn't. There was nothing there. There was research, award-winning dissertation, award-winning postdoctorate, blah, 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 blah.
Details resume. From the outside look.
Exactly. Amazing. Yes, that's it, right? But how should I say it? Something was off.
Yeah.
And it was so off that I didn't hear the language of the soul. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to bring myself back in time because, here I am today and I can talk to you about this. But back then, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I still don't.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much you've written in this book. There's so much you share with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talk about so many beautiful stories, stories of service,
Mm-hmm.
story of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
We today, I think, have a responsibility. Those of us that are in, shall I call us, the human potential arena.
Yeah.
I feel like for us here at the network, we have a responsibility to do our best to help people and give them a hand up. And the way I do it is through shows like this.
Mm-hmm.
What was, in my friend Jean Houston's language, what was the tipping point for you?
Mm. The tipping point was when I just about crashed and burned my business because of my refusal to listen to my deeper truth. I was building programs that, by the way, people were making tons of money, getting lots of reach, nada. Nothing would take lift. And you can see that as a disaster, a challenge, a crisis. But I knew, and I believe with every bone in my being, that the universe is conspiring for us. And it wasn't actually a challenge or crisis. That was the narrative in my 70K. What it actually was the greatest invitation of my life to own my truth out loud in service to others, learning how to reconnect with not only the deepest truth within, with this infinite intelligence, a database, if you will, that already exists within us, or we can connect to beyond us. But I had to, excuse me, just about crash and burn my business.
Yeah.
Before I was willing to surrender into the darkness. And this time I did it different. In the past, it was always fix it, Thompson. You're great at fixing things. So get after it, pumpkin, and fix it. And you're an idea machine. Try them all out. But when I finally surrendered into the darkness, and I remember that day, I was like, wow, the truth was hidden in plain sight all along. Everything grows in the dark. Our plants grow in the dark. The roots, system grows in the dark. What if I just actually didn't try to fix it and I asked questions in the dark? What if I just allowed divine right bubbling up of the path versus being my usual earth view Jeanine that wanted to go 100 miles an hour and fix it today? Like, how about right now? And so, that was a game changer for me. I learned how to create space because in this busy world, we're constantly double tasking. We're exercising and we're listening to audiobooks or shows. We're cooking and we're talking. We're doing all of these things, and we leave our highest potential on the table every single time. We're going to sub-optimize when we do two things at once, even though we may think we're good at it, right?
Yeah.
I used to see myself as a master of multitasking, single mom in a plane, 300,000 miles an hour, medical issues, man, I've got it. But I had to relearn the myths of society. I had to relearn and change my narrative that I could not be still, that I could not be patient or allow some invisible, unproven source to be the lighthouse of the next becoming, the next chapter, my next level of service. Right? So there was trust and surrender. And in that, the most beautiful thing starts to happen. We see in the dark with our light within. You literally sometimes can start to see the light in the dark if you're an avid meditator, but at minimum, you'll feel the light.
Yes.
One day, the inspired thought comes, or you tune on a show like this and you're like, oh, that's it, right? Or, it will come in divine timing. And for me, I didn't follow that a lot of times. I wanted Jeanine Thompson's human timing, and I was going to push it, and I was going to slug through and just try one different program, because certainly that was going to be the thing that did it. So it came to a point where I was down on my knees and just simply had to say, okay, I give. Show me the way.
Yeah. This is really, for me, this is what we're going to talk about when we come next. And for those of you out there, this is going to be the last break we take, because there is so much in what you just said that is so critical to all of us. And it doesn't matter if you have a giant dream or not. You know, some days you're thinking, how am I going to get through my day? Get up, go to my job. Yeah. And, you know, there's a part in your book, and I want to talk about this when we come back. You and I share something very, very common about a particular word. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about it, because when I made a statement on air had to be close to 20, let's see, about 14 years ago, I made a statement on air to somebody. And now I understand why they reacted to it. So there's a word in the book you and I completely have the same point of view on. We're going to talk about that when we come back. But for those of you out there, think about what I'm just about to say to you. Are you feeling lost or unsure about the trajectory of your life and the traditional resources that served you in the past? They're no longer working. So this is right in Jeanine's book. So think about this. Things that used to bring you joy are falling flat. That could be football. You feel persistent yearning, like something is missing. Okay, here's a couple more, right? You run from opportunity to opportunity looking for some trace of your own spark, right? This is the one that literally almost took me down yesterday. You're spending more time rationalizing, denying, or distracting yourself in the hope that your inner discomfort will magically dissolve. This goes on. There's a great list, but this one is my favorite. You are hiding out or playing smaller than you know is possible for you. And I'm going to end with this. We're going to go to break. You fear living out loud as who you truly are. When we come back, we're going to talk about that and talk about how you can pay attention to this 911, this soul 911, and what does it do to shift almost every cell in your body. Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. Everybody, welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. We are really going to dig a little bit deeper in here, because there is a point that we all get to where we know what's in front of us in our outer world, our outer mind, our outer. We know it. We're faced with it. As a matter of fact, Jessica and I had an amazing epiphany over the weekend about a number of different things. But do you believe that the universe is trying to trick you? What do you believe? Do you believe that you're out in this world and you're putting one foot in front of the other, but you know, you're moving towards your heart desire, and yet you find one obstacle after the other? It seems like everything's coming apart. Maybe the business you started is coming apart. Whatever that is, have you ever been there? Or it could be something as, my gosh, how am I going to get through this and work a job and still deal with issues of COVID and my children staying home from school? See, all of that, they're just things, but the way you feel about them, boy, it's very real for each of us. Jeanine, we're not going to take another break, and I want to make sure that people know how to get the book and how to find out more about you. So would you mind telling them that again? Because there's a lot on your website.
Yeah. So, yep, go to my website, playaroundjeaninethompson.net. There's a lot of information and free resources for you. There's a special for November and December. If you'd like that, Instagram _Jeanine Thompson _, and then you can get the book at Barnes and Noble, indie bookstores, Amazon, your local bookstores. Just ask them for the Ingram catalog. So lots of ways, and I love hearing from people, and I promise you I'll respond and interact with you.
I love it. Look, I know that you're like that because you and I are pretty similar. You can't come from the kind of corporate HR background And Linda as well. Linda is my producer. When I look at the three of us and our corporate HR experience, and especially Linda's job, Linda had one of the toughest jobs on the planet. She was director of diversity management. She spent, days in court for the company. But here's what I want to talk about. I want to get to this place where those things I read from your book, those are great questions that we ask ourselves. But I also want to get to this place of looking at how we can create, this soul ecosystem, so to speak. That's my word, my summary of your book, that takes us from whatever almost crashing and burning looks like to thriving. Now, before the break, I mentioned two things, and I want you to talk about them.
Okay. So
harmony and balance.
Harmony and balance. I'll start there and then we'll get to
how
we do this. All right. So first of all, I think that balance is a myth. I think that it is unachievable, and it actually becomes part of our Earth story narrative of why we think we're not enough, because we're trying to achieve something that is unachievable. What I think is achievable for all of your listeners is harmony. In my life, with a really big job on a plane, hundreds of thousands of miles a year, kids with medical conditions, and by the way, I considered them my priority, there was not going to be balance in this. But what there was a very deliberate harmony, so that when I was with my children, I actually was present. I came up with ways that harmony maybe wasn't a 30-minute walk. It was 5 minutes with my head out the window and allowing the sun to rejuvenate my body. It's the tiny ways, but it is the harmony of, can I be present as the best of who I am? Meet the moments with the best of who I am, and drop the balance, but find what the harmony is for you. And by the way, day to day, it might shift. What is harmony for me today looks different tomorrow, and give yourself that permission. You're so wise. If we just get out of our narratives and drop in and say, what's my next right? Literally, my next right thought or action, you will always be guided to the harmony you're seeking.
I want to ask you about this as we continue to really go through the book as well. I mean, you use so many great phrases. I think the one that I like most in the book was where you say something like, deep down, I knew I was the one stepping on the hose. I love that expression because that's so visual for me, right?
Yes.
What happens when you step on the hose? Oh my God, you like cut off the water. But there is just something really important in where you take us on this journey. And I love the part where you don't say it directly, but there's so many things you say that point to the fact where you are on the edge of crashing and burning, on the edge. Here's the question that I get. And as a matter of fact, I just got a text message on it today. And the text message it has to do with fear. Now, this is somebody that listens to my show like for a long time, been listening, and says, and is asking the question, when we have thoughts, may I ask you, please, Jeanine?
Yes.
When we have thoughts that drive us to decisions, everything is abbreviated in text messages, so I apologize, folks. When we have thoughts that drive us to decisions that are based on something we are afraid of, how does that block our soul? This is a good question. How does it block our soul messages to us? And how do we get from fear to trust? Okay, you're going to have to take the rest of the show to answer that. Thank you, Jay.
What a brilliant
It's a great question because that's what's happening to people now.
Absolutely. So first of all, I congratulate the individual who sent you that.
Jay.
Thank you. Because just to even recognize, hey, I know I'm consciously moving from fear, right? So awareness actually is the first question I always say to people. Where are you moving from? Are you moving from your earth-based fear, what could go wrong? This is safe, da, 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 da. Or are you taking a moment to pause and literally say, Yoo-hoo, I need a little help here. What would love do? What would love say here right now? So in this, we literally have got to introduce a pause. Most of us humans, we operate from automaticity. So in our 70,000 thoughts a day, 90% of them are repetitious. Most of us live and listen to a culture that's all from fear. So you got to give yourself a little grace shower because society teaches us to move from fear. And I'm here to say, no matter what decision you're making, no matter what you want to know, we always have time to pause for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, drop our awareness from here to heart center, belly center, and simply say, show me what love would do. Show me what love would say.
Your book, I mean, you nail it in the book because you talk about, 911 that pulls us away, but then pulls us into the pause. You call it the pause. I love this because Jessica and I, it's interesting because I read your book and I made a decision for my day today, very different than what it was going to be when I hit my bed. My bed hit the pillow last night because I always prepare, but then I always look the morning of. And I must have blew right by this part in the book. And as a result of it, I changed my day. Today was supposed to be a day for me to go into our office, go into our studio, But I realized that's not what my day today is going to be about. Whatever it is, the fear that creeps into our lives. If we are driven by that, if we make decisions by that, then we are always backpedaling, so to speak.
And we're cleaning up messes.
Cleaning up the mess.
I said I was moving from fear. I lived in half congruency. And I'm telling you, for all of your listeners, if there's something you know, but you don't really want to know, and you live your life in half congruence, things are going to get louder and harder. And instead, just like Dr. Pat actually beautifully just modeled for us, we don't have to figure out the darn day. That is a myth. We all get up and we script the day. Get up, get your coffee, take your dogs to the bathroom, kiss your kids, whatever you need to do. And actually just tune in and literally ask, what do I need to see today? What do I need to hear? How might I be a lighthouse? Show me the way. And if you could make it, I joke with the universe. I'm like, seriously, you're going to have to make this one a little loud and obvious because I am so stuck in this thick head of mine right now. So I'm playful with guidance, but I promise you, the more you start to just interact with this invisible, yet extraordinarily, infinitely powerful self that, oh, by the way, is already you right now. We just were never taught that. Everything we've been taught moves us away from the sacred, infinite nature of who we are within to observing all day long. The universe is going to send you love notes. Wake up in the morning and go, I cannot wait to see how life is going to send me a love note today. When I'm overwhelmed, I'm scared, I can't figure this out, I'm going to ask a different question.
Yeah, I love this. I want to read from your book if I could. Do you mind? For those of you, I am reading from the book. If you're just tuning in, Jeanine Thompson joining me here today. I got to read this though. Jessica, listen to this. There's a big difference between being genuinely unaware and being in flat out denial. Many of us have naively walked paths in life that we later realize were not serving us or others well. But wishing you didn't know because you feel unequipped or unprepared, taking half steps when soul is asking you to leap, wait for it, shoving the truth into the darkest corners of your inner cupboards and burying it with shoulds. Well, the cost is quite different. Your soul knows when the time has come to grow and change. If you insist that you are too busy and that the timing stinks and that the truth is messy and upsetting, that things will magically get better if you just pretend all is well, those are the times when a 911 comes knocking. You cannot hide from your soul.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how this is such a great message. I found myself, Linda and Karen have this little dog, Sadie. So they got Sadie a tent because she likes little 2-year-old Maddie's tent.
Yeah.
So I said to Linda, this is a metaphor. This is how you know something's going on. And I said to Linda, you know what I want? You know what I want for Christmas? I said, I want a tent like you got for Sadie. Now, why would I want a tent? Because there's something so calm about being able to take yourself inside of something that nobody else can get in and just be there. But this thing I read from your book, this is the key. And I want to ask you in the short time we have left, how do we help people get from there to get to trust and take the leap?
I got to tell you, during my darkest times, 7 key spiritual principles called the Soul Solution dropped in. And honestly, in my dreams, everybody would have a copy of that in their bedroom closet, on the door, in their office, because these 7 spiritual principles actually daily, if you just take a look, they're going to help you move from our conditioned false self to your soulful, infinite, inner genius self. There are literally, it's a blueprint to help you live greater coherence. We're still traveling in Earth School. So we still got all of this density, the heightened division, all of the jazz that's difficult around us. But this soul solution every day will be your nosh. It will be your light. And if you're willing, you don't even have to believe it right away, because let me tell you what, I would have rolled my eyes years ago as an evidence-based psychotherapist, trust me. But if you simply say, I'm willing to give it a go.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give it a test and try. I promise you, your readers, and they'll see this on my website, people's lives change, not because of me, but because already within you, you read those paragraphs today with your heart.
Yeah.
They touched your body truth. I always say your body truth precedes your mind lies. And when you read them, your body truth went, yeah, that's me right now. Well, you are in fantastic company, because we've got a globe right now who are searching for what the heck is going on? Who am I now? Time's clicking by in a blink of an eye, and I want my life to matter. And these principles will be a daily comfort, a daily lighthouse. You meeting your true self all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this. And, you know, part of this, when people get the book, when you get the book, we're going to make sure you know how to do it. But also, you need to go to Jeanine's website, because there's a lot there. You know, there's so many things that I was able to pick up. I read your book over the weekend, read it again this morning. I get up really early. And I love the morning.
No shock here.
Yeah. And I just love going, well, I don't know what that is, but I just love going through it again. And I picked up something different, because there were a couple things that happened this weekend with Jessica and I, and it's sort of a direction we're going in our expansion. And what I'm finding is, and I wonder if you could address this, that I can't think of a time in my life when I have either gone after something or have been of service of something, or, wanted to do something where I didn't have these moments that stepped in front of me to tell me, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you can't. I mean, I play a sport, table tennis, and every tournament match, that voice comes in and I just kick it to the curb. Yeah. But it's so much easier to do that about a little white ball than it is about life.
Yeah.
What have you discovered in the minutes we have left? What can we leave people with today to help them take an action to create this energetic shift now?
One, I'm going to ask you to change the narrative and say, even though I don't understand it, there is an intelligence of life. We don't make our heart pump. We don't make breath move in our body. There's an intelligence, and I promise you, it'll show up, and every day it's guiding you. So maybe start your morning different and be purposeful and say, what are my first thoughts going to be today? And if it's a false self thought, like I can't do this today, there's too much going on, I'm too tired, I want you to ask yourself, what would my soulful self say? You don't even have to know what soulful self is. Just say, what would my higher self say? Making tiny little shifts to say, I'm aware, but I am not going to allow fear to drive me off the tracks or have a bumpier road than I need be. I am meant to live the highest expression of my own unique brilliance in these 8 billion people. And I'm going to start asking the truth of who I am to take the helm of my life.
I love this. My mom used to say to us, girls, don't worry about hell. It's right here on earth. And I'm reading your book.
Yes. And I say that.
You say that in your book. You say, we all do the best we can. The fear-based mind serves no one. Self-punishment, worry, and fear create a kind of hell on earth.
Yeah.
And boy, we grow up with that. And yet with all of my mom's wisdom, all the things in front of me, all the things in front of you, that doesn't make us void of the mind.
No, listen, I still struggle with that too. So when I'm saying make a conscious effort to tune in and ask the inner wisdom, make no mistakes. If I do not pay attention, those 70,000 thoughts can have me all wrapped up in fear and in a second, right? But I create the conditions. Every day I go frolic and play in nature. It is where I wrote my book. You might have seen the table in the forest. Yeah. But you see, nature, when we take our worries out to nature, when we're on the land, the worries become small, and our soul is made of the same vibration and music of nature. All of a sudden, different ideas will happen. Maybe you'll giggle at the creatures playing tag, the squirrels playing tag. And soon enough, when we soften the worry, love fills every hole. And I promise you, love will give you a message that you can do this. And then your false self will say, I don't think so.
Yeah.
This is
kidding.
This is not going to work. And when that happens, I always say noted. And sometimes I have to say noted 15 times in 15 minutes. But then eventually I'll go, okay, seriously, you're pretty active, but right now, this is what we're talking about. And eventually, I promise you, it trumps. Love will trump the fear all day long.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, what you go on to talk about much more in the book, and I want to thank you. Thank you for so much. For those of you out there, we didn't talk about gratitude and, what Jeanine calls the nectar for your soul. But that is something we hope you all take away when you get the book. Jeanine, please, thank you for today. Tell folks how they can get the book and find out more about you.
JanineThompson.net _Jeanine Thompson _ at Instagram, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, indie bookstores, your local bookstore. And once again, I just invite you. I got a connect section contact on my website. Please reach out, because it's my highest intention that you meet the person you most long to meet, which is your true self.
Oh boy, I'm telling you, it is a message for all time. It is a message for this time. Jeanine, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been just a pleasure. Thank you.
And so much more in the book that I didn't get to today. There's a lot in here, but I know that there is a consciousness that is out there and aware that we are looking for that thing that we innately know, but sometimes forget. And Jeanine has done a great job of laying it out. I want to thank Jessica for running this show from a TTR perspective, and Benny, as usual, making sure we show up, pushing all the right buttons, and mostly to all of you. Jay, thank you for your question. You all are the best audience on the planet. We've got lots planned for you. We'll see you next time.